Welcome to Over 40, Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 82. If you're looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, today you've come to the right place. Today on the show, we have Jen on to share her pregnancy journey at 41. And yes, this is our second guest with the name Jen. And in this episode, she shares how she was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure. She also wanted to seek out fertility treatment after this diagnosis and years of trying, but her husband didn't want to. During her pregnancy, she also had quite a bit of anxiety, which I can totally relate to. This is an amazing story of trying naturally for 5 years and having the shock of her life when her cycle was very late. And this week's listener feedback comes from over 4,000 miles away. She says, "Hello, Jamie. My name is Luana. I'm from Brazil, and I've just completed 40 years old. But since the beginning of this year, when I started my journey to be a mom, I am listening to your podcast, and I love it right away. I had heard all the episodes. Thanks so much for all of this huge and amazing work you are doing. It's being so helpful, inspiring, and comforting. Thank you." Luana also told me later that she has tried with an IUI and has since moved on to IVF. So Luana, good luck with your journey. All the baby dust from Texas to Brazil. And I am 30 weeks pregnant. If you're new to the show, I am 43. I've had almost a 3-year journey and 5 pregnancies to be pregnant with my boy using donor eggs. Someone asked me a while back if my journey is somewhere in one place. And it's not. Most of it is in little places on a lot of shows. I mention a lot of it on the Donor Egg Roundtable show and the IVF Over 40 Roundtable show. And I was actually thinking sometime in the fall that I would do a show as a guest with my own story. One of the guests very early on suggested that she would be the host and I would be the guest. And I just love that idea. So I am going to be holding her to that. So stay tuned for that show in the future. I mean, really, I don't have too much exciting things happen this week. My ankles are definitely swollen at the end of the day. And I started to organize some of his clothes. I have hung some of his clothes up, but I found out he has an overwhelming amount of pajamas. I mean, I'm sure this makes total sense for a baby, but I was just shocked at the proportions of pajamas to like regular clothes. And it's so fun to see those clothes hanging up in the closet. And despite me still recording in his room, it is kind of starting very slowly to look like a baby's room. I still have a few things to clean out, like of the closet, and we have to move all of our office stuff into the other guest room. But I think that's going to start to get serious after Mother's Day. It's actually been bothering me that we aren't more prepared. And it took me a while to figure out that sentence in my head. But it's, how can I be a good mom if I'm not prepared? And it took me so long to figure this out. After talking to my sister, I realized that being a good mom is clearly not dependent on how prepared we are. It really seems impossible to be completely prepared. And Amazon is always just one click away. The sentence seems silly after I figured it out, but I just wanted to share how powerful it can be when you find those sentences. For me, it takes either writing about it or talking about it to actually find the sentences. Sometimes it just takes a lot of time to understand why. But anywho, let's get into Jen's pregnancy at 41. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And today, Jen is on to share her pregnancy journey at 40 and 41. But before we do that, Jen, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Jen. I am 41 years old. I'll be 42 in June. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a pediatric physical therapist. So I specialize in treating babies and toddlers and young children with various conditions here in Charlotte. And I have 3 children. So I have a 11-year-old daughter, Allie, and an 8-year-old daughter, Taylor, and an 8-month-old son, Dylan, and a wonderful, supportive husband named Dave. Yeah, we've been here in Charlotte now for, close to 14 years.
Awesome. Well, I think when we first got on, we kind of talked about where to start your story. And I think let's start with your pregnancy at 29 and just kind of talk about, was that hard or easy to get pregnant for you?
Absolutely. Yes. I was very eager. I was 28 when we started trying. I was very eager to get pregnant and thought, oh, this will take 1 month and boom, it'll happen. And although it wasn't long, it was about 7 months. It felt really long in the time. I got pregnant about 7 months after we started trying at age 29 and had a very easy, wonderful pregnancy and delivery, and delivered our daughter, Allie, after a kind of a long labor, but a very typical labor for a first baby.
Mm-hmm. So how long were y'all married before you started trying? Right away?
No, we waited about 4 years from the time we got married to the time 4.5 years till we started trying.
Okay. Did you always want to have kids?
Yes, always. I've always been interested. I always babysat. I was a camp counselor. I always loved babies, loved working with children, and loved the idea. My mom was amazing, such an amazing mom. So I always just was so excited to be a mom one day.
Oh. So after your birth at you were 29, how did you spark that next pregnancy?
Yeah, I had just turned 30 like a month before I had her. And then we thought everyone would told us, oh, that second baby comes so fast. So the second you start trying, it'll happen right away. And so I think we had that in our minds. And I knew I didn't want them too close together because that can be, I had seen, through my job and clientele that when you have them sometimes really close together, although it's wonderful in so many ways, it can be challenging in a lot of ways. So in my head, I had this 2-year, gap that I thought was perfect. And life has a funny way of kind of just doing what it wants. So when our oldest daughter was about 18 months, we started trying for our second child. And I was shocked, but it took about a year to get pregnant. And I think I wasn't expecting that. I was only 32, 31 actually, when we started trying for her, and 32 when I got pregnant. So I think I was surprised by the length of time it took for us.
Were you doing anything special to try and maybe look at your ovulation or something like that?
I tried all of that. Like I remember reading the books, Taking Charge of Your Fertility. I did the Mucinex that they say to do. I did the timing, the basal temperatures. I mean, we did everything and not get pregnant. Like none of it worked. So we went to see our doctor about a year after we'd started trying, and he had suggested doing a fallopian tube flush where they kind of go in there and they put saline through your fallopian tubes to see if you have any blockages. And so they did that, and it was completely clear. There were no blockages at all. And I remember my OB telling me, well, sometimes, that does kind of spark a pregnancy. And that next month I didn't get pregnant. So I guess if it's going to happen from a fallopian tube flush, they say usually that first cycle afterwards is when you get pregnant. So we were referred over to fertility specialists at that point. And I remember we went out, it was December 31st, it was New Year's, and Had a great time. And lo and behold, 3 days before my fertility specialist appointment, I found I was pregnant.
Oh, that's so fun.
We had not done any of the special things that you're supposed to do to get pregnant. So we didn't track. It just kind of happened that time.
Yeah. Now, did this fallopian flush, did that hurt? Because it hurt so much when I had it done.
So it did not hurt at all, like a 0 out of 10 pain
Oh
for
my
me.
gosh.
I know. So I was told that if there is a blockage of some sort, you're going to have discomfort and pain. And if there's no blockage, it's just going to flush right through. And so because I didn't have a blockage, it kind of went right through and I didn't feel anything. So I think I've had women say it was painful. I was prepping for it to be painful, but I had had a friend that had gone through it that said she had zero pain. So luckily that's the way it went for me.
Wow. Because I had the iodine flush through, not the saline. I don't know if that made any change, but they also, I guess, the dilation of the cervix or moving the
Yeah.
cervix, I think that's where the pain was for me. And oh my
Yeah.
God, I was ready to punch someone.
I can imagine, that I have to think back to whether or not there was a bit of iodine in there because I know they have to watch it on the monitor.
Yeah.
So I can't remember in that moment, potentially, obviously it's whatever the procedure is, that's what they did, whether it
Mhm.
was or not, but I can't remember offhand. It was a while ago.
Yeah,
So
sure. So at 32, how was the birth? Was everything, how did that go?
yeah, I was 33 when I had
Oh, okay.
Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was because, yeah, I got pregnant with her at the end when I was 32 and then turned 33 right before I had her. And it was easy. It was just like the first one. It was a pretty easy pregnancy. I worked through the entire thing. I remember with her having sciatica. Like that was there was one day where she just must have turned in a special position. And I just remember being in tremendous amount of pain. Like it ran down my leg. And
Ugh.
I just remember that day in particular, I had a ton of pain, but luckily she moved a couple hours later and that had the sciatica let up. But for the most part, it was easy. The hardest part was she was 10 days late. She just did not want to come out. So
10.
10 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And
I
they,
was done. Yeah.
yeah. So they didn't want to induce you or anything because she was 10 days late?
Yeah, no, my OB/GYN said that he really wanted me to go into labor because I had before, and he felt pretty confident that I would again. And they did have a 10-day, I think it's actually 14 days, but they did have me scheduled for an induction at that 10-day. And I luckily went into labor that afternoon. So I was
Wow.
scheduled to come in for an induction anyways that night, but I came in and I was in full-blown labor. So
Perfect.
it worked out great. Yeah. So I would say they were pretty easy pregnancies, pretty easy deliveries. So
Okay. So now you said there was a 5-year gap in between your second and third. Tell us how that happened.
yeah. So when my second daughter was 2 and my first daughter was 5, I really had this desire to have another baby. I always kind of wanted 3 or 4 kids. My husband was an only child, so he felt pretty confident that 2 was a great number and he was ready to stop there. But agreed that, he said, let's see what happens, let's see if we can get pregnant again. And we'll just kind of, he didn't want to do any treatments or fertility treatments. And he didn't want it to be like, where we had to schedule everything. He just kind of wanted it to be natural and see what happens. And I thought, oh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely, we'll get pregnant. I was 35 at that time. So when we started trying, I had just turned 35 and a year goes by. I didn't think much of it. Okay, well, Taylor took a year, so I expected as much. And then 2 years goes by and I'm like, okay, well, now it's been 2 years. I'm getting a little nervous. I talked to my husband about potentially looking into speaking with the doctor about fertility treatments. And he was like, well, let's hold off a little bit. He just, I think, was very scared about moving forward with fertility treatments with the possibility of multiples at that point, increased chance of multiples. And then 3 years goes by, still no baby. So we finally go in, we meet with a fertility specialist, we get all the blood tests done, and they do an ultrasound, and they said that I had premature ovarian failure. So I didn't have very many egg follicles. And my hormones were kind of like right on the verge of being too low. And so they kind of went through the options with me. And one of the options was to do like a hyperovulation, a drug that increases hyperovulation, and do that in combination with IUI. And we talked through it for a long time, my husband and and he just, I think, really felt like he didn't want to go that route at this point in time. He just felt like we had a family, it was complete, and there was a higher probability of multiple babies, that we weren't sure that we wanted to have that big of a family. And so we kind of just decided that we would just keep trying and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so then 4 years goes by and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we approached my 40th birthday, which was June of the right before the 5th year. And I kind of said, okay, that's our cutoff. I'm 40, and I had this number in my head, and it's so silly to think about it now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just thought this should be our cutoff. And, that's kind of it, just, I guess, what our family is going to be, a family of 4. And I'm so grateful for that. And I feel so blessed to have our beautiful girls. And I just need to kind of make peace with that. And we just kind of said, okay.
Like, did you think that 40 was too old and that should be your cutoff?
I did. Yeah. Like in my head, I had just thought, okay, well, 40 is too old. And it's really ironic because my mom was 39 when she had me. And that was in 1982. So there wasn't a lot of moms having babies at 39 in 1982. And I remember my mom was always a little bit, she didn't like to share her age when I was younger. So and she was later, she had her children later in life. My mom had my brother at 37 and me at 39 because they had tried for years and years and years and couldn't get pregnant. And so I just had thought in my head, I think 40 is old enough. And a couple months later, we were thinking my husband was going to do a vasectomy the following January, like 6 months after I turned 40, just to kind of officially close the door so that we weren't wondering if there was a possibility. And lo and behold, in November, a few months after my 40th birthday, I got the surprise of my life. So,
wow. So walk us through that. Were you just late on your cycle, or what prompted you to take a pregnancy test?
Yeah. So I was pretty consistently having a period still. So I had noticed that my cycle had shortened to like 25, 26 days when it always had been between 28 and 30 days. But right around the time I turned 37, 38, I noticed it was getting shorter, which I guess is something that occurs as you go into perimenopause. And so I think I was assuming that I was in perimenopause. I had a lot of the symptoms of it, where some of the sleep disturbances and the shorter period lengths or cycle lengths. And I was having some of like the hormonal changes that I guess are associated with perimenopause. And so I just assumed that's where I was. And my 26 days came up and there was no period. And then 27 days, and then 28 days, 29 days. And then at 30 days past, I was like, I have not had a 30-day period, like cycle, in years, like probably my early 30s since I had that long of a cycle. So I was just like, oh, I'm surprised. And I just had this feeling I was pregnant. I called one of my best girlfriends and asked her to come over. And I just said, I think I'm pregnant. And she's, no, you're not pregnant. Like, that's not possible. You've tried for 5 years. You're 40 now. Like, that's just not possible. And I was like, I really think I am. And so I remember telling my husband, oh, I think we need to take a pregnancy test. I'm like 5 days past my period. And he kind of like rolls his eyes. He's like, okay. Like, he didn't really believe that there was a possibility that we were pregnant. I mean, we had tried for so long, and we had kind of like mentally moved on. So we go into the bathroom and I take the pregnancy test, and I'm like, you're coming with me. Like, we're doing this together. So I had never had done before with the other pregnancy tests.
With your husband?
Yeah, I'd never pulled him in like normal. I had taken them on my own and then done some kind of surprise to tell him.
Mm-hmm.
So this time I was like, you're coming with me. We're going in together. And so I come out with the stick and we sit down, and it is like 20 seconds and it pops up pregnant. And he just starts laughing hysterically because like he's just like shocked. And I started to cry because I think I had mentally moved on from the possibility of it happening, although internally I just yearned for it so much. Like, I just felt like our family was not complete.
Yeah.
And so it was just this like overwhelming level of emotion that we had in that bathroom.
That's awesome. I think we plan so much and then you were comfortable changing your plan. And then you're like, wait. This
Yeah.
wasn't the plan.
You're 100% right. And I think I
Yeah.
really struggled with that in the beginning because I had shifted back and forth so many times. And I think I was so excited and so scared all at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
And that,
And you haven't had any miscarriages up
not,
until this point.
yeah, like not known, like where I had a positive pregnancy test
Sure.
and lost the baby. I think I had a hunch that I had one maybe like 9 months before that, but it was never confirmed. So, there was no way I had not taken a pregnancy test, but my
Yeah.
cycle was really off and I had felt like something was really wrong that time.
Uh-huh.
So it's just, I feel like it's a very different case, to
Yeah.
struggle to get pregnant and then really only get pregnant that I know of those 3 times that produced
Yeah.
3 children. So, unusual, but great at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, how did your pregnancy go?
It went really, medically speaking, like it went really well. I didn't have any complications. It went just as well as my pregnancies at 29 and, well, I guess I was, 29 and 32/30, 33. So I really had, no gestational diabetes, no high blood pressure, no morning sickness or any complications at all.
Wow. I'm so
But
jealous.
but I had a horrible reflux, like the worst reflux that a person could have. And I remember when after I had my son, my daughter was like, "Wow, you're not burping all the time." Like she like totally picked up on the fact that the reflux was better. But oh my goodness, that reflux was really, really rough.
And
So
when did that start?
that started like literally like the week after I got a positive pregnancy test. I mean, it was immediate, which was always like one of the first pregnancy symptoms I had in both of my other pregnancies. So I wasn't shocked that it came on full force from the beginning, like a bottle of Tums in my bag, a bottle of Tums in my car. I kept them like everywhere
Mm-hmm.
nearby. So, and then of course I had, some of the aches and pains of, back pain and hip. I had a ton of hip pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I do remember was different with this pregnancy is the hip pain started quickly. So being very uncomfortable sleeping on my sides.
Yes, I have that too. I know it well.
Yeah. Yeah. So those were the big things. And I think the reflux got so bad that I would literally be sleeping and I would wake up and the acid had come up and I was choking on it. And I would have to
Ugh.
real quick and try to clear that out. And that was a little bit scary. A couple times that scared me because I couldn't breathe right away. So that's when I knew I needed to talk to my doctor about getting a prescription to help control that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about your doctor? Because there was a 5-year gap, did you go to the same doctor or did you find a new one?
I had the same one. I was so blessed. So the same OBGYN for all 3 girls. He delivered all 3 kids. He delivered my 2 daughters and my son. And the crazy thing is when I got pregnant, this third pregnancy, I was scheduled to go in that week for just an annual exam.
Uh-huh.
And I had to call like 2 days before and change it to a pregnancy. And he walks into the waiting room and he's like, what, like, and he was like, I had to go back because you were scheduled for an annual and then it switched and it said pregnancy. And he's like, he just was like, couldn't believe his eyes. Like I almost fell out of my chair. And so he was really excited because he had known how much we wanted a third child. And so I think, it was really exciting for him as well. And just really cool to have him be in the delivery room all 3 times.
Yeah, that's such a great support system too. When you have a cheerleader in your doctor too.
Oh, he's so wonderful. And I just couldn't imagine anyone else being in that room. And I know that was a feasible possibility, right? Anything can happen and you have to kind of work through it. But it was really nice to know that I had someone that I really trusted and that listened to me to support me through the pregnancy and the labor and delivery.
Mm. What about the gender? Did you find out the gender during pregnancy?
We did not.
Fun.
It made it so fun. I think we had always talked about not finding out for one of the pregnancies. We just had never done that. And I just firmly did not want to find out the gender of this baby. Like I wanted to find out in the delivery room. The only thing I cared about during this last pregnancy was that it was I was doing well and healthy, and the baby was doing well and healthy, and I did not want to focus on anything else but that. And so I wanted to find out who this little person was when they came into the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said you had some fears when you found out you were pregnant. Did that carry on throughout the pregnancy too?
It really did. Yeah, it was pretty intense in the beginning. I was really nervous and really, really fearful and thought something was going to go wrong. I just thought there's no way after this many years. And they told me that I had, premature ovarian failure and not great egg quality. And there's no way that this baby's going to be healthy. There's no way that, or am I going to have complications? I just had unfortunately worked myself up so much. And I think also too, from talking to mental health professionals that work with pregnant women, said that the hormonal shift in the beginning can be huge. You're just going on with your life with the one set of hormones, and then you get pregnant, and then the hormonal shift can be enormous. And that sometimes can result in anxiety and sometimes can result in antenatal depression and things like that. And gosh, I remember just feeling so ashamed, like that these feelings were in me. I just felt so ashamed. Like I've been wanting this baby for 5 years. I'm grateful and blessed enough to get pregnant. And here I am worrying nonstop. And I just, that really still sits with me today. Like I having to going through that and then feeling for women that may feel the same way and just wanting them to know that they do not need to be ashamed, that there is a support system out there that they can talk to, and that it's going to be okay. And I think that if I could pass on any advice to any woman that may be having some mixed feelings, getting pregnant at 40 or later than 40, is just to talk to someone, talk to a support person, and do not feel ashamed for the way that you feel. A lot of it you can't control. A lot of it's there, the anxiety, working through that and trying to stay as healthy as you can physically and mentally through this pregnancy is like the number one goal. So I was really lucky to have a support system that supported me during that time until I worked through that, which about midway through my pregnancy, I started feeling a lot better. I think my body started adjusting to the hormones. We were getting through a lot of the doctor's appointments, the tests, and I was getting farther along knowing that this baby was likely going to be able to come into the world, that I wouldn't lose the baby. So
yeah. I know a lot of us right now listening can totally relate to that, including myself. Yeah. And I think that's why I had such a hard time believing that it was going to happen. And then I was pregnant because I just wanted to protect all my feelings from all those fears.
Yes, I know. I think it's like a protective mechanism. Just you go there and just self-perseverance, just wanting to protect yourself from the possibility of feeling so horrible if something does go wrong.
Yeah. So did you get the NIP test done just because they told you that this baby may not be healthy?
Yeah, I did all the tests. I think working as a pediatric physical therapist too, it skews my world a little bit, right? Because I do work with so many wonderful children, but there are varied diagnoses that I come in contact with on a daily basis. So I knew that the potential was there. I knew that I wanted to have that information ahead of time, right? Like I wanted to prep myself for it. And so we had made the decision ahead of time that we wanted to do the testing. So we did the blood testing at, I think it was 9 weeks. And there were some other tests that we did along the way as well, and some carrier testing and things like that, to find out, if there was anything that we were going to be dealing with.
Is there any products or anything that you could recommend that helps you during pregnancy?
I mean, definitely, I think the best product is a pregnancy pillow for sleep. So anything that will improve your sleep quality, I think is. So I bought, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to find the name of it, but it was the pillow that goes between your knees, and then one that goes under your bump as well. So you like one under your bump, one between your knees. And that really helped a ton. And then I had a foam roller that I would get on every day for
Oh,
my neck and my hips and stuff. So that worked really well. I think those are the two products that I use the most.
hmm, those are good. I have a J shape pillow, and
Yeah.
that helped with your hips.
Yeah, yes. So having one between your legs, one, that goes all the way down to your ankles, or one between your knees, and then the additional one
Oh,
that goes between your ankles. And then for me, I needed something under my bump when I was on my side, and then something that was under my actual hip bone. So like I felt like I had a whole pyramid, like so many pillows. It definitely helped. I think that finding that right position for comfort so that you can get sleep is key. And I think when we don't, that, from as a physical therapist, it really can take your pelvis out of alignment. So I wanted to make sure
yes.
that didn't happen. And that I didn't want to get a lot of sacral pain from that. So
Hmm. Now, because this was your third baby, how did you prepare for him?
I did. We have a great physical therapist that works with who's perinatal physical therapist that works with pregnant moms here in Charlotte, and I had worked with her. So
Uh-huh.
there's actually two of them, and she came over. We did activities to help with flexibility, with strength. She does a birth preparation class, so she went through all of the labor positions and taught me and my husband different ways where he could help decrease. I get back pain with my labor. So I had really bad back pain with my first two, I had a ton of back labor with my third. And so she showed him counter pressure methods to decrease the back labor. I wish I would have known that the first two times because that would have helped a lot. But we had that tool in our toolbox. We used a ton in my third labor. And she talked about, which I think was huge, she talked about as the baby transitions through the birth canal, there are different hip positions that you want to get into to help the baby descend. And I wrote all that information down. I knew how to move my hips and my legs at different points of labor to help get him out. And it was invaluable information for me to have
Yeah.
that. And she was great. So
And that do you think it made your birth go faster or just more smoother?
I think more smoother, especially when it
Okay.
was time to push him out. He was definitely rotated and turned.
Uh-huh.
Was not coming out with me pushing on my back. And so we had to get creative at that point because it had been about 2 hours of me pushing for my third baby Dylan. And I was like, this isn't working. Like, we have got to find a different solution. So we pulled out some of that information that she had given me. And then we talked to our wonderful nurse and moved me onto my side
Hmm.
and tried some different hip opening positions. And boy, did that work. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
There was such a gap, I guess 5 years. Did you get rid of your baby stuff or were you saving it?
We got rid of almost everything, but I had saved my stroller because I don't know, like I just had this
One thing.
connection with my stroller. And I had actually just posted it and like literally like a week before, maybe not even a week, it was a couple days before I had that positive pregnancy test, someone had reached out about purchasing it. So I never got back to that person. So like, why did she get back to me? But yeah, we had sold almost everything. So I remember thinking this better be a boy because I sold all of our clothes and or donated. I mean, we donated so much stuff. So we were pretty much didn't have really anything except a stroller, which, we ended up getting a new stroller anyways, because I realized there were some really great new stroller options out there this time around. So,
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about cravings. Did you have any cravings?
yeah. So it's so funny because the cravings are so different through each pregnancy. But one common denominator for every pregnancy was I wanted milkshakes. Like milkshakes were huge for me. And I wanted a milkshake so bad. And I remember that was like the one question my husband asked me after we had the positive pregnancy test. He's like, do you want me to get you a milkshake? Like he offered right away. So milkshakes. And then I always crave burgers. So for me, it's like hamburgers, red meat. That was something that hit right away as well.
Uh-huh. Do you think that was like a low iron issue?
Yeah, I think your body craves what it needs. It's craving
Yeah.
calcium and iron, which is, two really important nutrients to have when you're pregnant.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to mention about your pregnancy before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I think just the fact that at 40, my body was perfectly capable of doing this, and not only capable, but it was great at it. And I think it's important that age is not necessarily an indicator of how your pregnancy is going to go, because mine went at 40 almost as well as it went at 30 and 33. So I would just say, trust yourself and trust your body. It's made to do this. I was lucky enough to and blessed enough to get pregnant at 40, and my body knew exactly what to do. So it was great.
Awesome. So because you were 40, almost 41, right? Did they plan for an induction for this one? And at what time? How far along?
39 weeks.
Okay. Walk us through all of that.
Yeah. So that was really, I felt like through my entire pregnancy, my OBGYN was so supportive. Like he was like, 40 schmorty, like, this is fine. You're going to be great. Like,
oh, that's so good.
It's like, that is young. I see, women in all of their ages of, many ages in their 40s having babies. And he just never made me feel like that was a big concern. He's like, I'm not, you've had 2 babies. This is going to be great. And so the only, I think, way that I was treated slightly different than I was before was the planned induction. Whereas before, I went past due both times without, any thought behind that. This was a time where they were like, research really indicates that we should encourage an induction at 39 weeks. Thought about it for a long time, and I knew I wanted to go into labor naturally, because I felt like my body knew what to do, and I wanted that as an option. But I also trusted my OBGYN, and I decided that we were going to go ahead and plan the induction at 39 weeks.
Did you start off with Pitocin? What, you want to start us off with that story?
Yeah. So we went in at 38 and a half weeks for, or like maybe like it was like 38 weeks in like a day or two for just a checkup. And they were like, we're just going to do a quick ultrasound. And they wanted to do like a stress test at each appointment. So I think I had a stress test at 37 weeks. And then they were doing my second stress test at 38 weeks just to make sure everything was okay. And they were like, well, we're going to take a quick ultrasound. And the little bugger turned breech.
Like, oh, no.
37 weeks and 38 weeks, he flipped breech, which apparently like never happens, is what I'm told. And I had felt off, like I was having a ton of rib pain and pain in my like upper back. And I was like, what is this pain like that I'm feeling? And it was his head jamming into my ribs. And I was like, I cannot believe this. Like, I've made all this preparation. You've been head down this whole time. So I ended up they scheduled me for a C-section. And I was like, well, what are my options right now? And so he was like, well, we can do the inversion, or we could do I can't remember what the name of the maneuver where they kind of turn the baby. And if you don't want to do that, then you can do some other, spinning babies and things like that. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go home and do some research. And so I did all the things. I did the spinning baby course online where you do some of the inversions. And I went to see a chiropractor, and I did acupuncture. I went to see my massage therapist. I mean, like I literally did everything. And I was scheduled for that C-section that Monday. And I woke up Saturday morning and I could feel his feet up at the top. So within like 3 days, we got him to flip back. And
so it worked.
It worked. So I called my OB. I'm like, I'm running in to get there was like a private ultrasound clinic there. And I called her and I'm like, can you fit me in? I think my baby flipped back. Head down. And she was like, come right in. So she checked me real quick. Sure enough, confirmed he was head down. And my OB was like, stay upright as much as you can for the next 24 hours. So I did. And when we went in Monday morning, he was still head down. So they went forward with the induction at that point in time and started off with Pitocin.
Now, could you feel him flip?
Did not feel him flip.
Interesting.
But when I woke up that Saturday morning, I felt his feet all over again, like his little feet kicking.
How did you know it was his feet? Like you could just press and feel?
He had kicked his heels out. Like I could feel his heel like kicking out. And I was like, that's not a head. Because before you could feel like a big old head.
Okay.
But this time I could just grab his little foot. So.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So now they're starting you on Pitocin. What happened then?
Yeah, I just had asked that they respect that I wanted to start low on Pitocin and see how it goes. So they did. So they started off pretty low. They bumped it up a little bit more. Contractions were definitely coming quickly at that point. And I was progressing fairly well, not too quickly, just kind of progressing slowly. And they decided to go ahead and break my water. So then they broke my water, and then that just flew things into gear at that point. And I remember transitioning from like a 4 to a 10 in 45 minutes,
Wow.
which was, I had gotten a epidural at that point, but it was painful transitioning that quickly.
So did they break your water at 4 centimeters? And
Yes.
that's when it just went 4 to 10.
Yeah, it was so fast. And they had only bumped the Pitocin up one. So it was still very, very low. But yeah, I mean, and my doctor told me this, like, hey, you've had two babies. Oftentimes we'll break this water and then your body just takes over and knows what to do at this point. And we knew it was going to go fast because with my second daughter, when they broke my water, I mean, it was so fast at that point in time. I think less than 2 hours from the time they broke my water to the time I had her. So we knew it could go quickly, and it sure did.
Mm-hmm. So then what happened?
So then it was time to start pushing. And I had only had to push for like 15 minutes with my second daughter. So I thought, oh, we've got this. This isn't going to be too long. Like, no problem. And my husband had that in his mind too, because it was so fast with our second daughter. He's like, oh, good. We're going to have this baby in an hour, you know? And that did not happen. It was 2 hours of pushing, and he just was not coming near to crowning. I could not get him to budge. And I was getting really tired at this point.
Yeah. How long had you been going through this?
So start to finish, from the time they gave me my first bit of Pitocin to the time I had him, was about 12 hours. So at that point, we were at about hour 10.
Uh-huh.
So it had been a while. I guess we were at hour 9 at that point. I pushed for 2 hours, nothing. And that's when my nurse was like, okay, I think something's off a little here. Like, I think he might be turned in a weird position. And so she flipped me onto my side, and she's like, we're going to get you on your side. And all of a sudden, when she got me on my side, my left side, I started to be able to push and make some progress at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like probably like 30, 45 minutes from the time that they moved me to my side that I was able to get him out.
Oh, wow. So what happened when you found out you were having a boy?
It was, I mean, I think at first I was just glad that he was out. Like, I was just like, oh my God, he's out. It's over. Like, I did it. Everything's okay. He's here. He's okay. I'm here. So like the first 30 seconds, I remember just breathing a sigh of relief, like, oh, we did it. We did it. He's here. I can't believe the baby's here. I can't believe the baby's here. And my OBGYN had told both me and my husband ahead of time, I'm not going to announce the sex of the baby. That's my husband's job. It's Dave's responsibility to say what.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So we'd already cleared up that with us ahead of time. So 30 seconds go by. I'm kind of catching my breath. I was a little emotional at that point. It had been a long day. I remember I'm on my side at this point. So I like turned my head to look up, but I can't see anything but a butt. Like, this baby's screaming. I see a butt. I don't know what's what. I'm looking over my shoulder, and I go, what is it? And it's dead silence. Nobody says anything. This baby's just, crying. And the nurses were like, oh, and like, I swear it felt like 30 seconds goes by and nobody answers me. And I say it again. Well, what is it? And then my husband says, it's a boy. But he was so like emotionally overcome in that moment that he just couldn't get it out. Like, he just needed to take a second to catch his breath so that he could tell me it's a boy. And it was just probably the best feeling I'd ever had in my entire life. It was amazing. And they put him on my chest, and I just kind of still couldn't believe that he was here, and it was a boy, which we would have been happy, obviously, with whatever. But I think having two daughters and then having a son, when we didn't even think we would ever have a third baby, like, we just thought that was never going to be a possibility for us. It was a pretty amazing emotional experience.
Yeah. What was important to you in those moments after birth? Like skin to skin, any delayed cord clamping, any of that stuff?
Yeah, both. So I had definitely talked to my nurses ahead of time, and they were so wonderful and receptive to the information. And I had basically told them I wanted to do skin to skin right away. And I wanted to do a delayed cord clamping. And so that's what we did. I think it was a 2-minute delayed cord clamping that they did. And we did skin to skin for a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could remember the exact amount of time that we did the skin to skin before they took him to check his weight and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really nice time together.
Yeah, I'm sure you kind of lost track of time after that.
I did. Like, you're almost in like a time warp at this point. Like 12 hours is like a really long time, but in your head, you're just kind of going through stage by stage. So
Yeah.
you really just don't have a lot of concept of time in those moments.
Yeah, definitely. So how was your recovery?
It was pretty good. I had pain after it. I mean, it was a little bit longer of a recovery for me. I think the pain was a little bit more, especially like the joint pain that I had afterwards. I wasn't as in good a shape when I got pregnant my third time as I was the first 2 times. So I think that maybe played a role in it as well. But I think overall it was a smooth recovery. I just think I had a little more postpartum pain than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm. And how did you choose to feed your baby?
I breastfed, so we breastfed. We're still nursing, about to wrap that up pretty soon. And so yeah, we breastfed right away
Mm-hmm.
and had some trouble at first. His latch was okay, it was pretty good. We got some support with lactation right away. There's a great lactation consultant here in Charlotte that comes to your house and she works one-on-one with you, and she came a couple times for us. He had a tight frenulum, and he had torticollis, which is when a baby's neck's really tight and they have like a preference to rotate their neck in a certain way. As a PT, I treat that all the time. So I knew what to do to help support him. But I think a lot of my nursing pain in the beginning had to do with the fact that he was so tight that he was having trouble getting comfortable for a good latch. So we had to work through that. And it was a good like 6 weeks before I think breastfeeding felt comfortable, which I think I was surprised. I had breastfed my older girls for a year each. I thought, oh, I got this, but it was a whole nother learning curve. It was difficult, and then there were times where I wasn't sure I was gonna follow through with it, but we did work through it, and we made it. So
How do you decide when to stop breastfeeding?
I think I feel like I'm ready to move on from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's at a point where he's now 8 months, and we've supplemented with some formula starting around 5 months, 6 months, because I was back at work and it was tough to keep up with the demand all day long with being at work as well. I kind of just felt like, okay, he's doing really well with the formula. His body seems to be tolerating it well, and I'm getting fatigued from all of this. Like, I'm ready to kind of have a break and have my body back to being just my body and not having to stop now I think I'm only nursing 3 times a day, but I'm kind of like ready to have that time back for myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And mentally, how was it for you postpartum?
Luckily, it was really good. I was scared because I had so much anxiety those first 4 or 5 months of pregnancy, like at times crippling anxiety. And so I was like, oh, I wonder how it's going to go afterwards. And I knew I was at higher risk for postpartum depression because of that. But luckily, I didn't experience that. And I think part of it too was just having a really great support system, having family, friends around to help. And my husband got a really long paternity leave this time, which we didn't have the first 2 times. And wow, that made a world of difference to have
Yeah.
him. His company gave 4 months. So uh,
Oh,
I think that, gosh, what a great support that is for mothers when their partner has 4 months, their husband, their partner has 4 months of support and postpartum support, because you feel like there's always someone there to help you in different situations. You're not 100% alone trying to figure all this out. So
yeah.
I would think that played a big part in not developing postpartum depression.
Hmm. My husband has talked about taking time off further along afterwards, but do you think it would be best to have a lot of that help up front right after the baby's born?
I think it's like personal opinion, personal preference. But for me, those first few weeks you're still so sore physically. And so even getting up and picking the baby up is tough. And so you definitely need that support in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it also depends on how much time you get. It's not like 2 weeks goes by and boom, you're ready to take care of this on your own. It takes weeks for you to feel better and for your body to heal. And so I think obviously you're going to want that support those first few months. But I also just seen in myself, but also seen in so many new parents that I work with in my career, you start to hit a wall a little bit around 8 to 10 weeks because you're now pretty sleep deprived. So it's really nice to have support at that point too, so you can catch a nap.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel that wall also at 8 to 10 weeks?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely felt that wall. Luckily, our son Dylan took a bottle pretty quick, so I could pump right off the bat, like within a week or so of having him. I immediately started pumping at least a little bit in the morning so that I had a one bottle that I could give my husband so that he could help out a little bit
Uh-huh.
during the morning so I could get like a longer stretch of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely remember feeling like, oh, the sleep deprivation hits you just as hard each time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, is there anything else about postpartum you want to mention?
I think I worked with a postpartum physical therapist as well. So I worked with a physical therapist while I was pregnant to prepare for labor. And then I worked with a physical therapist after I had Dylan to kind of put myself back together. And I think that made a huge difference as far as trying to find my core again and trying to promote healing, getting through a lot of that back pain that I was still dealing with after having him. It was really nice to have someone that could be hands-on and support that and kind of really help with some of that pain that I was having.
Yeah. Were you doing a lot of, I guess, physical therapy as in exercises, that sort of thing?
Yeah, exercises and then working one-on-one. So, trying to work through some rib mobility from the rib pain that I was experiencing and some hip stretching and things like that. So
Mhm.
it was a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. Well, did your husband ever have that vasectomy that was
He did,
planned?
he did 4 weeks after Dylan was born. He had that. So he felt pretty sure that we both felt pretty happy and grateful for our family and felt really comfortable in the fact that it was complete.
What has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
I think the biggest challenge that I had was more of like a mental challenge. And I definitely don't recommend Googling like things like risks of having a baby at 40 because that is just opening a can of worms. And I think just realizing that this is a natural thing and our bodies are 100% capable of doing this, being able to like reach out and find your support system. So for me, finding this podcast was so amazing because it really was helpful to be able to walk through it with other women. And so I just think mentally knowing that you're strong and that you're capable and your body's capable is the most important thing that when I look back at my journey, I think that was the hardest part, but also the most important part.
Is there anything you'd recommend that would help someone prepare for pregnancy and birth over 40?
I think just having your providers lined up, I think having a supportive OBGYN that sees you just like they see every other patient. I think having a good support system of providers. For me, it was having like a good physical therapist to prep me for labor and then a massage therapist to kind of help with some of the aches and pains. And then just having a good support after the baby comes so that you're healing and really enjoying that time with your new baby.
Perfect. And what advice would you give yourself when you're pregnant if you could go back?
I would say enjoy it. Stop worrying so much and enjoy this blessing that you've been given. And I wish I could have just been in the moment and just really enjoyed the entire thing. So.
Mhm. And what would you say to those women who are over 40 and trying to conceive?
Yeah. So I know it's hard. I just empathize so much because there's so many feelings that you're having and that yearning for a baby is so strong. And so I would just say continue to stay positive, surround yourself with positive people that are supporting your journey and providing resources for you that will help you with this. And just know that it's 100% possible. I think a lot of us maybe were surprised by the fact that we got pregnant, but I think our bodies are definitely capable and prepared to have babies all through our 40s. So just try to stay positive, and keep trying, and surround yourself with as many supportive people as you can.
And where can our listeners find you on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram. So I've got my personal page, which is at DeSicoGen. And then I have my physical therapy business, my pediatric physical therapy business, which is at Baby Steps CLT.
Awesome. Well, Jen, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for helping to support so many women having babies in their 40s. I think it's amazing, and I just really appreciate you.
And that wraps up another great episode on Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant podcast. Next week, we do have a regularly scheduled pregnancy story over 40. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.